This is going to be a brief demonstration of the capabilities of Anaconda Python version 1.8 on Windows. The various platforms that Anaconda runs on all have pretty much the same capabilities, but getting to those capabilities is a little bit different on each platform. First, let's just run a plain vanilla Python. I'm going to search for the command prompt by typing cmd. And your screen may look a little bit different if your username is different or whatever. Anaconda, unless you uncheck some of the boxes that are checked by default, will install itself as the system Python, which means that you can type Python from a command prompt and it will launch the regular Python interpreter. You can also run IPython, the interactive Python interpreter, which has a few extra things in it. And to find out exactly what IPython can do, I'm going to direct you to look at ipython.org for more information. You can also run ipython space -- help to see some of the various command options that are available, and you can scroll back up through the buffer to see what you missed as everything scrolled by. And finally, you can launch an IPython notebook session from here in the command prompt. And that will open a web browser after it finishes starting up the IPython notebook backend. And from here you can use IPython notebook the way you normally would. I'm going to show you the details of how to use IPython notebook after we launch it through the launcher in just a moment. So if you see down at the bottom here, you can use Control-C to stop this server and shut down all the running kernels. I'm going to show you how to launch things from the launcher. To access the launcher, open the Start menu, All Programs, Anaconda, select the launcher. You can also select individual items from here, and that's essentially the same thing. By default, only the Python notebook is installed. I'm going to click these buttons to install Python Qt console and the Spider application as well. And these take just a moment to install. You need to let them finish before you hit that close button though. There, Qt console is installed. And now we'll install Spider. Okay, when you launch IPython notebook, you'll see a command prompt window open, which is where the program is really running, and then you're accessing it running on the local machine through this web browser. So I'm going to maximize this window. I'm going to create a new notebook. And then in this cell, you can type any Python command or a series of Python commands. And then you can execute the entire cell by typing Control-Enter. You can save the entire notebook by hitting the Save and checkpoint. You can rename the notebook to something other than Untitled. You can download the notebook as either an IPython notebook file, which will allow you to restart and continue the session as it was when you were running it, or you can save it to a .py file so you can run it from the command prompt. Of course, you have all the standard edit. You can toggle the appearance of the notebook viewer. You can insert cells, delete cells, run just a single cell. You can rerun all of the cells. It's a little confusing until you get used to it because once you type more than one cell, these cells get numbered and they can be out of order depending on how you run them. If you run into a problem with where your Python program is hung, you can interrupt it. And if you really need to start over from scratch, you can restart it, but that will lose all of the currently defined variables. And then you'll find that once your Python program has been saved, it's persistent. So you can shut down the notebook and restart it, and this Python notebook will be there exactly as it was when you left it. The Qt console, Qt is a windowing environment that's available on Windows, Mac, and Linux. So it allows you to have a similar experience across the various platforms. I don't personally use this because I don't find that it gives you much benefit. Essentially all it's doing is running IPython in this window. But it does have a few things. It'll allow you to save your IPython session to an HTML file so you can share it easily. It has some copy and paste functions that are better on Windows than the standard command prompt window. You can do the same interrupt and restart that you can do in the notebooks. And you can turn on or off these various magic functions which are part of IPython. That can be handy if you don't remember the specific commands to do that and you just want to select it from a menu. Other than that, it's not very different than just running IPython in a standard window. And finally, the Spider application is more of an integrated development environment, or IDE. Now from here, you can either edit this as a file-based script, you can execute things in the interactive window, and then you can save your script file under a certain, whatever name you want to give it. And then you can run the script. That activates the debugger, excuse me. You can choose to run your script either in the current Python or IPython interpreter, or in a new one, or in an external terminal. For today's purposes, let's do it in a new Python interpreter. And since this program will quit very quickly because it's only doing something very short, I'm going to check this box to interact with the interpreter after it's done executing. So it just ran the script that we created in this new interpreter window, and after it's done we can interact with whatever was left at the end of our interpreter run, and that can be handy for debugging. And then when you close that, that interpreter is gone and you're back with your default interpreter. There are various other features in here for debugging your program, converting indentations, running pylint, which will tell you if you've made some errors that are difficult to detect. The editor here does syntax highlighting, so it will automatically tell you if your quotes are unbalanced, for instance. You can get to the Python documentation from here, a few other resources that may be of importance to you as you use the more advanced features. And that's it. Those are the various features and ways to get at all the functionality of Anaconda.